Hi, I'm Pete with Grace Builders. I'm going to give you a quick video tour of a home that we built recently, and I hope you enjoy this. And this one is for a retired couple who are downsizing from a very large home that they had here in the area. As you pull in, we tried to create a very craftsman feel to this. Like there's an older craftsman bungalow and a little carriage house style here. I designed all of the timber work, and actually this whole little shed, I kind of built the design of it with a single slope roof, the wood columns out front with the stone bottoms, also the doors, and had these hinges custom built for it. And they're very heavy duty hinges that we had custom built. And we built the doors ourselves here on site. And the house itself, I designed the whole front entry on this to bring out the overhang with the little indent area and this paver patio with the craftsman columns. We'll walk inside and I'll give you a really quick tour. Here we're on the inside. And we see the first thing, this coat closet and hickory. And then a lot of custom hickory cabinetry. Sitting area. Here is the main living room. Pan back through. I want to take a moment and look here. These are Marvin windows, very high and high performance windows. Something else of interest here is the thickness of this wall. You can see this is not a standard 2x6 wall. The reason for that is the thermal barrier zip system that we used. Get a little better look at some of the cabinetry. This is an extra knotty hickory, and the cabinet maker filled those knots with resin, provide a very beautiful, very rustic feel in those. Down this hallway we have a little guest bathroom. Again, the custom cabinetry, which goes throughout the house, here into the laundry room. And this is a very energy efficient heat pump dryer below there. The clients picked out this fun little mosaic. You can see this sink is a deep basin sink out of an old schoolhouse that they wanted to repurpose. So we added this wall mount faucet that can pivot out of the way so it's easy to fill little buckets up for cleaning or whatnot. The walls have a texture called an imperfect smooth. It's quite common actually in Hawaii of all places, and maybe in other areas, but I've seen it more in Hawaii. This pantry, just a step away off the kitchen, is very unique in that we built in a countertop across there, which is wonderful for storing all the little goodies and everything that would normally clutter the kitchen counters. Here they can have all of that without having to clean it up. They can just shut the door and it's gone. A word on these doors, the slider doors in here, they are cavity sliders, which is a really, really good door system. If you're wanting a door that won't break down, that's probably the best way to go. This is an office with a Murphy bed in there, a couple desks, and that's the boss. Here in their master, there's a little walk-in closet there. View out the back overlooking some rolling hills. Clients have some beautiful artwork. They're obviously Kincaid fans. This is a slipper tub. A word about these tubs that is kind of intriguing is they're very ergonomical. So deep, and without being very long, a person gets a very nice soak in a tub like this. They're just shaped a little better. All the tile, the large format here, this is a porcelain sheet tile. So it comes in 5-foot wide by 10-foot long sheets. And so it gets done by the same people who would do a granite countertop, for example. And then we did all of the marble trim around that tile. As we walk back through, I'll take a quick look in the garage. The garage is heated and insulated as well. The client put in all the storage once he was moved in. On the sides of the garage, he wanted an extra large single car garage. In this little room here that I'm opening is the mechanical room. This is the boiler system and the various pumps for the various zones throughout the house. This sends the hot water down through the floor to heat the whole home. And this above is an ERV system. You can see an air intake there, and out this end where it pushes out into the house, and that pipe goes down out there for an outtake. There's a little recirc valve on the hot water so that there's no lag at any of the fixtures. Up there I'm showing a vent that we put into the mechanical room with a similar vent over here that has a little fan on a controller there. That allows us to take any of the heat that's generated inside the mechanical room and pull it through the mechanical room and back out into the house, which is again another way to gain efficiency in the heating of this home. And so that kind of concludes the quick walkthrough. I want to speak briefly about some of the elements of this build that are unique. One of the things, and we incorporate this into pretty much every build we do, is we use zip system, which gives us, on the outside of our 2x6 frame, it gives us 1.5 inches of rigid foam before the exterior shear wall. What that does is it provides a thermal break. You don't have the heat transferring through the studs. So here's my wall, it's built with studs, and this is wood on the stud and then drywall here. In this place, on a 2x6 stud, I have roughly R6 insulation value. And then I fill this up with R13 or R15 or R17. Then what I have for insulation is R6, R17, R6. And so the inside of the house, if you look at it with a thermal imaging scanner, you see all and every single stud. So to avoid that, and to avoid that heat transfer and the heat loss that's then created, and the moisture that's created when you have the conflicting temperatures from the outside and the inside, well, that's where condensation comes from. So by using the zip system, we're providing about an R8 break before we even hit the stud. That reduces a lot the condensation issues that come through an insulated space to a non-insulated space. Another really intriguing thing we do when we frame is whenever we have two studs together. So think a window. A window is built with multiple studs together. There's one that has to go from bottom to top, another one goes from the bottom to the top of the window, and another one that goes from the bottom to the bottom of the window. Now, those studs, although they're held together, they're not airtight. Imagine your tire. It doesn't take much of a leak for a lot of air to go through that. Well, the same thing. So in order to avoid that, we seal with acoustical sealant all the way down in between all of those studs. And instead of just nailing them together, we pre-drill and screw them all together so they're truly airtight. That's one place where air is a real culprit, and we found this method of sealing those studs to really break that air seal. In other places at the bottom plate, instead of just using just the little rollout foam, we also use Sikaflex, an acoustical sealant that goes down and it really pinches, it really provides the air seal that we're looking for on the bottom. Also on the top, on the double plates, again, everything is sealed up with an acoustical sealant. Combined with that zip system and then blow in spray foam, we have a very, very airtight wall system. Now that airtight wall system wouldn't do much good if the ceiling system weren't equally airtight. So on the ceiling above the drywall, we have a 3-inch spray foam insulation barrier. In this home, it's a 5-inch spray foam insulation barrier that wraps around the tops of the bottom cord of the truss as well. So it's a very, very solid lid. And on top of that, we blow in cellulose to bring it up to that R50 value that we're looking for. And actually in this case, clients wanted it higher, so we jumped it up to about an R60, R65 value in this ceiling. So that's just on the insulation of the walls and the ceiling. Underneath here, we have a concrete slab with radiant pipes running through it, carrying hot water from a boiler system that heats that concrete slab, and that heat comes up. It doesn't go down because under it, there's a vapor barrier and over 3 inches of blue board rigid foam. That way, instead of heating the whole Northwest, we're only heating the inside of this building. On the outside of the concrete stem walls, we also are coating them with 1.5 inches of blue board foam, providing an insulation barrier so that the concrete is not catching all the cold from the outside and trying to transfer that up inside to this house. Instead, what heat we put in here stays in here. During the construction process of this home, we heated the whole house with one simple little oil heater. Those little radiant heaters that you plug into the wall. They look like the old ones from the old institutions, but they're just a little heater and on wheels, a little space heater. We put one of them in here and comfortably held this whole house to over 70 degrees when we had freezing temperatures outside. That's how well insulated it is. Now, when you have a home that well sealed and that well insulated, moisture becomes a very big challenge. So to overcome that challenge, what we did is we put in these vents you can see kind of on either side of my head, and they're in multiple places throughout the house, in the bathrooms, laundry room, etc. This is from what's called an energy recovery ventilating system. So what that does is it takes the outside air, brings it in, runs it through a heat exchanger, and exchanges the outside air for the inside air. By going through that heat exchanger first, if it's 30 degrees outside and 80 degrees inside, the air that comes in doesn't have to be 30 degrees like it would be if we were relying on the air that's just leaking through poorly sealed windows or poorly closing doors or air gaps in our walls. Instead, that air gets heated up to about 65, 70 degrees before it enters this home, not hurting the temperatures of the house. The opposite happens in the summer. If it's 100 degrees outside and 65 in, that air as well is brought down a long ways so that the internal temperatures aren't beaten up by whatever's going on outside. And the difference between an energy recovery ventilator and a HRV, or a heat recovery ventilator, is an energy recovery ventilator also works as a dehumidifying element. So we can pull the internal humidity levels of this home down. That is something that's very, very critical in a truly well-sealed home, especially one that's a smaller home like this. Isn't a large home. We're at about 1,200 square feet. 2 or 3 people living in a home this size will kick off almost a gallon of moisture a day through their breath and through just evaporation. If the home is perfectly sealed, that needs a place to go. And that's where that using that dehumidifying element is very critical in a well-sealed home. One other thing we do in a home when we build it is, as we build our walls and we sheathe them, on the inside we do what we call strapping. We put up a 1x4 along the wall that's marked at 16-inch centers, and we attach it to every single stud. And that stays there until drywall is ready to go. What that does is it does not allow our studs to warp and twist and bend, because they're held on the outside and they're held on the inside. And what's critical about that is when our drywall professionals come in to install drywall, their screws can go straight up and down, and they know they're hitting a stud. When someone doesn't do that, a stud can deflect a full inch, an inch and a half. Try hanging cabinets on that. Try putting your drywall screws on it. And then when there's that deflection, what it also does is as it pulls your walls out of perfectly plumb. So that's something I really believe in, is keeping things strapped, letting those boards really stay straight as they are acclimatizing and getting used to being out of a bundle and basically free, only attached on top and bottom. So that's an important thing that we like to do as well, to hold our walls really straight. It keeps them plumb. It makes everyone's job on the site that much nicer. And frankly, if I have my own house, I want to know that every stud is straight. And I think my clients want to know that too, that every piece of wood in their house is as good as we can get it. It's always such a joy to take a drawing on a piece of paper that you can set on a table and turn it into a structure that someone can do life in. I see that as one of the greatest joys of building. To be able to help others' dreams go from a tabletop to a place where they can create their memories, they can have their family, their children, their grandchildren running around. Thanks for joining me on this really quick tour through this home. And I'd like to, and hopefully will, talk to some of the other clients I've built homes for, and put little tours of theirs as well, so that anyone interested, you could get a little bit of a feeling for some of the things that we build, some of the quality that at Grace Builders we like to put into everything we do. God bless you guys.